To give us some perspective on President Obama's action plan for Asia, we're joined today by Bob Kapp via Skype. Bob is a China scholar and the former head of the U.S.-China Business Council, as well as an advisor to LinkAsia. Bob, thanks for coming on the program.
A pleasure, Yul.
Now, given that China is the world's second largest economy and America's biggest creditor, do you think it's a smart move for the U.S. to keep China out of the TPP?
Well, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is a trade agreement in negotiation now between the U.S. and 8 other partners. It is not going to involve gigantic proportions of total American trade. On the other hand, China is the most important trade partner for virtually every single member of the negotiation except us, number one ranking trade member. So it's important that China not be actively discriminated against through a bad treatment, but it is not necessary to include China at the start in this agreement. And
why is that? I mean, if China is such a huge trading partner for most of the economies in that region, why wouldn't you want to include China?
Well, it has to do with the stage of China's economic development and the way in which the Chinese economy and its trade policies and its domestic economic policies are structured. There would have to be a great deal of meshing of gears, it is felt, I think, by the Americans involved in this, before China would be ready to fully mesh with the rest of the parties. You know, the United States, President Obama has said on this trip, there are rules of the road and China has to play by rules of the road. Mm-hmm. And China has replied, wait a minute, I mean, it depends on who writes the rules. If we have nothing to do with writing the rules, we may not be able to play by all those rules. This TPP is a chance for the United States to try with 8 other trade partners, small nations in the Pacific, to say, okay, these are the rules, and have an American say in defining those rules for trade in the Asia-Pacific region. China may or may not, in the end, feel comfortable in seeking admission to the TPP later.
So in your view, the TPP isn't a deliberate or overt effort on the part of the United States to try to isolate China?
Well, now that's being hyped. This is the week of President Obama in Asia. There's been a lot of ugly talk in the American political process. The Chinese have been talking tough. The Chinese have territorial issues with a number of the ASEAN and other Southeast Asian countries. So the press is certainly turned on this week to the idea that this is another showdown between the U.S. and China. And there are lots of frictions between the U.S. and China. But the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiation between the U.S. and 8 small Asian economies, is not part of any military encirclement or alliance against China.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate your insights.
Well, it's a start. There's a long way to go. Thanks, Joel.
Bob Kapp is the former president of the U.S.-China Business Council and an advisor to LinkAsia.
Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world. To learn more, visit linktv.org.